Hurricane Sandy struck in October of 2012. I want to highlight the devastating impact of Hurricane Sandy, particularly the weather patterns that led to the unprecedented flooding in New York City. The flooding was primarily caused by a storm surge, a rise in sea level driven by the hurricane's powerful winds pushing ocean water towards the coast. This surge, which reached nearly 14 feet, combined with heavy rainfall, inundated lower Manhattan, overwhelming the Hudson River and East River. Aggravating this disaster, Sandy struck during a full moon, resulting in even higher tides than usual. Unlike seasonal flooding, this event was a stark reminder of how wind-driven storm surges can lead to catastrophic flooding, highlighting the urgent need for improved coastal resilience in the face of climate change.
Hurricane Sandy's flooding has increased in frequency and magnitude over time. In the 1800s, floods like Sandy had a return period of about 1,200 years. By 2000, that period dropped to about 398 years. Projections showing it could drop to even 90 years by the year 2100. The most affected areas are along the United States East Coast, specifically New York, but storm surges affect large coastal regions. Rising sea levels, driven by global warming, glacier melt, and thermal expansion, mean floods will continue to worsen. Human factors like greenhouse gas emissions and urbanization are making the problem worse by increasing storm risk and reducing natural flood defenses, like wetlands.
Hurricane Sandy was a devastating storm that impacted the lives of countless people across 8 different countries, recording a death toll of 254 people. Hurricane Sandy greatly impacted day-to-day life for many regions. In the higher impact areas, floods caused destructions of towns and infrastructure. In Jamaica, 70% of residents experienced power outages, as well as damage to infrastructure, 1 fatality, and roughly $1 million in damages. In Haiti, 75 lives were lost and an estimated 200,000 were left homeless. They also experienced extreme food shortages due to loss of crops. They were still recovering from the Haitian earthquake of 2010, so many people were living in tents or temporary structures that were washed out during the hurricane. In the Dominican Republic, 2 people were killed and 1 was killed in Puerto Rico. In Cuba, 11 people were killed, roughly 15,000 homes were lost, and it caused an estimated $2 billion in damages. In the Bahamas, there were 2 deaths and roughly $700 million in damages. In Canada, 2 lives were lost and there were roughly $100 million in damages. The country that was devastated the most by Hurricane Sandy was the United States, where 24 states were affected. New York and New Jersey were the states that were hit the hardest. Roughly 8.5 million residents experienced power outages and 154 were killed. The damages were estimated to amount to $71.4 billion. The economic cost was almost $75 billion, and the human cost was 254 lives lost.
The response to Hurricane Sandy showcased different strategies to aid those who suffered from the flooding and heavy winds. In Haiti, 6,000 tarps, 5,000 water containers, and 2,500 hygiene packs were administered throughout the country to assist those impacted by the flooding. In the United States, areas and neighborhoods that were directly in the storm's trajectory had mandatory evacuation. Airlines throughout the northeastern part of the United States were canceled and emergency shelters were prepped for those who were unable to evacuate. Preparations for heavy amounts of rainfall that caused most of the flooding during the storm were taken into consideration, and families were mandated to leave their homes and seek refuge in a safe location away from the hurricane. Due to the heavy winds of the storm, homes were destroyed by fallen trees and debris. This led to worldwide assistance in the aftermath of Hurricane Sandy and contributed to 10,000 blankets, 9,000 hygiene bags, and 1,700 flood cleanup kits distributed. In the case of a hurricane such as Sandy or any other tropical storm, people prepare for heavy flooding by simply evacuating the area as quickly as possible before the storm arrives to assure public safety.